we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Bass and Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, May 29th, 8 EST. At least that is when you will be watching. And thank you for joining me for another episode of the Cinemasters Reviews. I am your host, Payson the Cinemaster Johnson. Thank you for joining me for another episode. Once again, another pre-recorded episode. This week we will be reviewing the newest Disney live-action remake, The Little Mermaid, as well as the new Robert De Niro-led comedy, About My Father. Now, once again, this is a pre-recorded episode because we are going way down under, over to Australia. And joining me to review The Little Mermaid, the ultimate Disney fan. I know there is no one I know that knows more about Disney than this person. One of my favorite people in this community, one of everyone's favorite people in this community, Kelly Meehan. Kelly, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I've got to live up to the hype now. That is like the best intro I might have gotten ever received. That's, well, the compliments. Woo. No, thank you very much. Thank you for choosing to have me on this episode. I've been really excited to talk about this, and I can't wait till we get into it.
No, 100%. Like the second I saw this movie on the time frame, I was like, okay, tooth or nail, I'm going to get Kelly on this show to talk about it because I wanted to get someone that had opinions on Disney in general. So I just think we jump right into it if you are down.
Let's dive right in.
Dive right in. Thank you so much. All right, but The Little Mermaid, directed by Rob Marshall. This is an adaptation of the 1989 classic. It is about a young mermaid by the name of Ariel who dreams to go above the sea and interact with the human world. She ends up falling in love with a prince from afar. She ends up making a deal with an octopus by the name of Ursula in order to go and try to fall in love with this prince. You know the story of The Little Mermaid. I almost kind of feel redundant explaining it, but I wanted to. Kelly, I have two questions to ask you. One, what are your thoughts on the original animated classic? And what are your thoughts on Disney live-action remakes as a whole up to this point?
Such a loaded question. That's one of the ones I've been thinking about, like how to explain my viewpoint. The Little Mermaid original 89, like I am a child of the 90s. So I think for a lot of people of my era, Ariel's a very sacred character. Like she's a very beloved character. Jodie Benson's portrayal of her is so revered. We saw that when we saw like Ralph Breaks the Internet and she got to come back and voice Ariel. We saw that, like I know that viral clip of Jodie Benson singing at a person's wedding, like very beloved performance and character. And I think it's because it's the movie that saved Disney, and it brought Disney back, it brought princesses back, something about that red hair and sweet naive performance of Ariel. So and even just then I just enjoyed the movie a lot. It's not one I had on VHS. It's one I more kept going back to on DVD. But even if I didn't own it, I knew I had about 5 other friends that owned it. So like it was definitely other ones that watched it at sleepovers and stuff. Like I remember those the big VHS plastic covers that like popped in together. Like
yeah,
every other household had one of those. So yeah, I do love the original, and I think it's a smart play to remake it, especially after the success of Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King in particular, success box office wise, I mean, for those ones. Disney live action remakes. When I told my mum I was going to the cinema, the silent third reviewer of this is going to be my cousin Jazz. She's 1 year older than me. We've grown up on Disney, and she messaged me, Cal, do you want to go to the cinemas and see this? Because we're Disney fans. So when she said that and I told my mum I'm going, she's like, I'm really surprised because I haven't seen any live action remakes in a long time. Fair. I've missed Mulan. I've missed The Lion King. I've missed Lady and the Tramp. Because I love the original, and I just haven't felt I've wanted to give my time to the remake. Little Mermaid's a little bit different because we were going to go see it together, and I enjoyed Beauty and the Beast. I had a funny time with. Beauty and the Beast was so when I first watched it, then loved it on the rewatch, and then hated it on my third rewatch. So I don't know where I'm going to land on it. But I really enjoy Cinderella 2015, and I really enjoy The Jungle Book 2016.
Yes.
So I'm still of an open mind when it comes to the remakes. But the thing is, at this point, I think everyone has their own bar. Everyone has their own bar set of where they fall on it. So some people either really like, some hate, others, some are like, it's pointless, you know. But when I went to the cinema and I saw all really young kids there, kids in their pajamas there, people my age taking their children who want to relive the classics and see it again, I can't deny how much joy it brings people. So how can you be mad at that?
Yeah. Just to give my initial thoughts, I love the original movie from the 80s. I think it is one that I watched quite a bit as a kid. Like you said, it was the movie that essentially saved Disney. The 80s were, of course, kind of like a dark time for the company, and just right after this, they just hit like banger film after banger film after banger film. Like that, there's a reason why we call the 90s the Disney Renaissance, and it all started with this movie. I think the really fascinating thing about Ariel is she feels like a real teenage girl. Like she's so like she feels rebellious. She doesn't want to like just fit into the regular like nature. Like, yeah, she has like annoying moments if you look at it from like an adult, but at the same time, she's a teen. Like we were all annoying at that age, and I think that's really, really fun. I could be wrong. I want to say it's one of the first ones that Alan Menken did like the music for. Am I okay? Okay.
Yes.
And that combo is legendary for so many reasons. Same combo that did Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, it's not my absolute favorite one from the Renaissance, but I do really, really enjoy it. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, where these live action remakes have really just sort of run its course at this moment. I think I really think Beauty and the Beast is maybe like the pinnacle of them, because like the pinnacle of how I feel about them, because I don't think it's the worst one, but it's the one that I just feel like they're really changing nothing, and it just feels like heartless in a way. And I think that's my main issue with it, where it just, none of these movies capture the magic of any way of the originals. Now, some of them I do like. I do really like Cinderella. I do really like Jungle Book, like you said. I had a lot of fun with Cruella. Which is not necessarily like a remake, but sort of like
that alternate universe.
Okay, fair. Yeah. Alternate universe movie. But yeah, like The Lion King is probably my least favorite, because it's literally it's not even live action. It's just 3D animated Lion King, and it's The Lion King but worse, and I just don't want to watch that. And watching this movie, like you, I was also in a completely full crowd, and I was surrounded by families, and they were all enjoying it. And there's a part of me that wants to say, like, okay, shouldn't that be like enough? Shouldn't I look at that and be like, okay, I should be happy for that? But at the same time, my cynical movie critic brain often sees like, okay, but like Disney's just going for the most easy path here. And while I don't think this movie is as bad as other Disney remakes, I hesitate to call it a great adaptation. One of the points I did bring up, where I think the majority of these remakes are they take the animated films and bringing them into live action, the magic just feels lost for me. And like I
translate.
So many of them just do not translate. Like, I think the reason why Cinderella is one of the best ones is because Kenneth Branagh realized what he had to do, where one of the best things to do is just expand the story. Like, Cinderella is already just such like a like bare bones story. So Kenneth Branagh was like, okay, why don't we just expand upon that? And that's why that one's successful. This one kind of does that in a way, so I will give that credit. But when you're just taking the animated stuff and making it live action, it's not going to be as effective. Kelly, did you feel like there was a lack of magic with this movie?
At times, yes. I think some of the stronger points were some of the changes they made. So one of the strong points, like, we've got to talk Halle Bailey. Like,
yes.
She lights up the screen, and I was hooked straight away. Like, because they take a lot of the starting scene where she's exploring the ship underneath, and I'm like, that's great. And she just turns to the camera and smiles, and I'm like, oh, I am so in. And I thought it was really smart that they took some of the actual dialogue from the film, and the way she delivered it, I'm like, yes, this is Ariel. Like, this is this sense of Ariel. So I really was quite drawn to her as a character and her portrayal. Just these beautiful sparkling eyes at times. They would do these close-ups, and I was like, whoa, like, you're seeing this reflection in them, and she just had heart and depth. But what I liked about her is that she brought determination and a sense of urgency to Ariel that wasn't like a beat for beat portrayal of what we got from the original. Like, she put her own spin on it while keeping the integrity of the character, which I really liked. How did you find her as Ariel?
If Halle Bailey was not in this movie, I would like it a lot less. She carries this movie on her back, and she should be applauded for that. She is incredible as the character of Ariel. Yeah, she takes those tendencies that Jodie Benson created. Once again, like Jodie Benson, beautiful voice Halle Bailey has. Like, whenever she sings, like, the Part of Your World section in this movie honestly lives up to the animated film, because she is one, because I'll get into this later, but another part is just that she is just such a great singer. And yeah, like, her face is so expressive. And I think Rob Marshall realizes this, which is why he has the camera so close up on her at points. Like, she is able to carry parts of this movie. I do think some cast members did kind of phone it in. She is not one of those people. Like, she is incredible in this movie. And honestly, I really liked her scenes with Eric, played by Jonah Howard King, who I also thought did a pretty good job. Like, they were the ones who I felt like were the most invested out of all of the actors in this movie. And the scenes where it's just them, like, falling in love, like, you get a little bit more of that. And that's what I like about this movie. Like, those scenes were some of my favorite moments. What did you think about those scenes, Kelly?
I agree, because they did give that determination, like, in the part of the world, and she is, like, reaching out, like, she is going to get there. I believe it, and she is going to make it happen. Whereas sometimes in the original animation, I'm like, she looked into a few things, and, like, I reckon if she wouldn't go after it as much. Whereas Halle Bailey's Ariel, I'm like, no, that girl goes out and makes stuff happen. And having the biggest thing is the runtime as well, to me. So I think most original Disney films are like a good 90 minutes or so. Sometimes in the golden age, they're like an hour 20. Padding it out to 2 hours did give us, I liked when they it was too much, but at least some of the scenes I really liked was them connecting, was them finding out each other's interests and bonding, and it gave it a bit more weight than, oh, you're just a pretty face and suddenly we're in love. Like, they were able to communicate without her using her voice, and I liked that a lot. And it's similar to Cinderella, where you had to give a lot more backstory to your love interest. They gave a lot more backstory to Eric, and he had motivations and he had character depth, I guess, sort of thing. So yes, I agree. Their scenes together were great.
I really liked Eric's scenes with Grimsby. Like, I kind of liked that relationship.
Grimsby was an upgrade.
Where, like, Grimsby is sort of like when the like midway through this movie, like the original Ursula kind of takes like a human form to try to distract Eric again, and Grimsby is such like just calling Eric out in the funny ways.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Just this woman just comes on, she has the same voice, and you're just gonna leave Ariel for this? Okay, and just sort of like crap talking Eric. I really did find that funny. So yeah, Grimsby I do think was a good upgrade. Yeah, you kind of mentioned the runtime, and I think if this movie was like an hour 45, hour 50, I think that would be really good. I think going farther up to 2:15 is a little that was overkill for me. But like upping the runtime by like 20 minutes, if they would have done that, I think that would have made this movie better. Talking about some of the casting choices that didn't work, I'm just gonna say the biggest one. Javier Bardem.
What was that?
Leap. He I'm convinced he must have been drunk while doing this movie, because okay, yes, I'm so happy you mentioned this.
Javier Bardem, underwhelming delivery. Why? did he deliver everything in this tone and cadence and like this and had no emotion?
He has zero emotion. He has zero heart to his performance, which sucks because Javier Bardem is not a bad actor by any means. We've seen him do incredible things, but he just does not care. This is clearly a paycheck role for him. And and it sucks when you see actors like this take these types of roles, because sometimes when you get a great actor, they can elevate the material in a way. Javier Bardem was just completely asleep. And like, there are certain moments I'm watching it where I'm like, man, in the animated version, like, this would have hit me so much more. But because, like, I'm just thinking, like, that ending scene, if I would have cared about Ariel and Trident's relationship, that would have been everything. But because Javier Bardem put nothing into this role, it just, I just did not care at all. So yeah, real quick, what are your expanded thoughts on it?
Oh, real quick, no, I've got a lot on this. When it was revealed in the movie, and I forgot some of the casting choices. I'm like, oh, Javier Bardem's Triton, and he looks great. And I'm like, this is going to be it, because you're right, we've been spoiled for choice for performances. And I'm like, okay, it's a little stagnant, and nothing's reaching his eyes. But I'm like, well, maybe we're going in a real different approach, because Ariel and Trident is one of those real fantastic father-daughter relationships from Disney. I have hanging Christmas ornaments, and I just love putting that one up every year of them hugging, and because of the push-pull of that. And so when I saw that nothing was reaching his eyes when he was delivering things, I'm like, okay, well, maybe we're going with he's a bit jaded, or it's been a hard time and he's trying to raise these daughters alone. Like, maybe we're going to go that route. And even then, Halle Bailey is throwing everything at him and is giving the Ariel, like what you said about being a teenager and stuff. And they had no back and forth. And I was conflicted, because Kenneth Mars delivers so much heart for that character. And it's not just the anger, he has good banter with Sebastian, and he's playful and things like that. There's a range of emotions that can play with Triton that Javier Bardem didn't deliver. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe it's not a bad thing that he's not getting angry, and we're trying to be a more modern approach to a father-daughter relationship. But then you just, as I said, there was no push-pull, so then that ending payoff wasn't there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed it too.
This is not pre-recorded. Never mind. Yeah, like I think of that original film, and I just, like, the pivotal scene, honestly, of that movie is when Trident destroys Ariel's, like,
yes,
because, like, when you're watching that moment in the original, like, it's not that Trident doesn't love Ariel. He does love her, but he's so scared of, like, what this
protective of her.
Yeah, he's so overly protective, and that moment should be everything in the live action film, and you feel nothing of it. And I think that's what kills me about this movie, about that performance. Other casting choices that just didn't work. I think Melissa McCarthy could have been a really good Ariel. I don't know what she was doing with her voice. Like, it sounded like every line was, like, slurred, and, like, I was like, what is happening? I'm sorry. Like, I know we all like to pick on her, but, like, Awkwafina as Scuttle, like, that was the most eye-rolly, like, comic relief stuff in the movie. And, like, for some reason, like, did you notice the bird can apparently, like, talk? Like in water, like, breathe underwater? Like, did I miss something? Like, is that explained?
Some of the rules of the universe were a bit, especially when you're translating that to live action, it really was like, well, who can hear what at what time and things like that. It got a bit funny. Melissa McCarthy, what did I write? I thought it was fine. She's still clearly inspired by drag queens and inspired by Divine. So I think that still translated enough. So, and she kept the integrity of that character in the sense that she is so over the top that she's just camp. She was still a camp character. So that made me really happy. But there's times where, like, yeah, she just was like more like mob boss sort of vibes. And I'm like, yeah, so she brought a bit to it. I like that you say slurring because during Poor Unfortunate Souls, some of the musical arrangements were a little bit off. I thought Part of Your World, all the ad libs and things like that were really good. But for Poor Unfortunate Souls, I did feel like it was a half step too slow. And especially there was times that, like towards the end, the tempo was da 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 da, and it wasn't hitting that. And so that threw me off a little bit.
No, yeah, absolutely. The one casting choice I would say that I do think was pretty good, like aside from Halle Bailey and Jonah Howard King, I think Daveed Diggs put a lot of work into Sebastian. Like Sebastian's one of the great like side Disney characters, and I love Daveed Diggs. Like, is he essentially just doing an impression of the original Sebastian voice?
Right. Yeah.
I personally didn't care. I think Daveed Diggs is excellent. And I really loved him as Sebastian. Jacob Tremblay is also okay as Flounder. Flounder didn't really get to do a ton.
It was serviceable to the character.
Yeah.
Sebastian, I feel, was like the third lead of the film. Like, he had a lot of screen time and pushed a lot of plot.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. A major factor I really, really need to talk about with this movie. Yeah. So since The Jungle Book, Disney has been really trying to put a lot of money and put a lot of work into the technology of creating like photorealistic animals. And I'm sorry, I think it's getting to a point where they're trying to make it too realistic, where I look at these animals and I'm just so put off because of how like because of how humanoid they're trying to make their faces. And like here's the thing. Animals in real life don't emote. Like, one, they don't talk. And when they do talk, they're not going to be emoting. So, like, when I see them have conversations, I'm feeling nothing when I'm watching this. Like, what has been your reaction to seeing, like, these realistic animals? Like, this was a problem I also had about The Lion King, where, like, you just have these, like, blanket stared, like, conversations between these animals, and you're just feeling nothing. And I feel like this is another issue with this movie. What did you think?
I think Flounder is really off-putting to look at. I think I'll be thinking the same thing. Like, when he pops up on stage, you just got these big eyeballs. I'm like, it's not cutesy anymore. You know what I mean? And I think Scuttle was another one where, like, it just reminded me so much of Becky from Finding Dory. Like, it could have just been, like, it looked exactly like that, which is, like, no expression. So, yeah, it's hard. And I had a few similar feelings with the ending scene with Ursula. So I love that we got, like, when she's coming out the water, it looks great. But I wrote my favorite Cher Horowitz quotes was that it was a full-on Monet. From far away, when they were doing big wide shots, it looked great. But when it was up close to her face, it was a full-on mess.
Yeah.
So I think that's why maybe I do like Cinderella, because there wasn't as much of that animation. And even The Jungle Book felt lived in, but there was times the close-ups were a bit rough. I like when they're putting more into the costumes. I thought the costuming and makeup was really pretty. I thought her tail and outfit and everything like all that looked really good. Because when she's swimming around, I'm like, God, that must just be so hard to act. Like, any underwater scene would just be really hard to actually act in.
Yeah, no, and like I do give a lot of these actors credit, because like the underwater looks okay at points. We're actually kind of transitioning into one of my other points. The underwater at points looks okay. I think a lot of it just looks really gray and like dark. And like this is one of my, like, when you think of that original animated film, there's so much color.
It's vibrant.
Yeah, you just want to literally live under the sea. And like when I see the underwater in this one, I'm like, I just feel bored kind of looking at it.
You and I are on the same wavelength. So Under the Sea, the song.
Yes.
My cousin sat next to me. She's like, I just had a big goofy smile on my face the whole time. And that really hit for her. I'm like, good for you. Like, I feel happy for you. Other people have said the same. Like, that translated for them. For me, that was one of the weaker songs. Actually, because I didn't feel any of that vibrancy, any of all that color. I felt like I'm seeing like big underwater expanses. I'm seeing turtles. I'm seeing a lot of beige. And that original song, it's like it goes through all the different animals and there's other people singing and other things like that. I just felt very vapid, and I thought that was a missed opportunity, and it sucks. But like, other people got joy out of it, so I'm happy for them.
Yeah, because like when I think about that song, I'm like, the whole point is Sebastian's trying to convince Ariel why the sea is awesome. Like when I'm watching this movie, I'm like, yeah, Ariel has a point. Get the heck out of there. This seems honestly kind of boring.
3/4 through that song before we saw any of like color surrounding her and swirling and fun and things like that. I'm like, well, it's already over. No wonder she left.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I honestly think most of the song numbers were kind of a mixed bag. Like I really loved Part of Your World. Under the Sea was kind of disappointing. Poor Unfortunate Souls had moments that I enjoyed. I weirdly kind of liked Kiss the Girls. Kiss
I thought
the
that was
Girls.
a cute arrangement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Most of the new songs I think are fine. They're obviously not going to.
Eric's song is going to be the least streamed on Spotify. Like I'm just going to call it right now. That was forgettable. But I liked her new song, and some of the choices I liked, Payson, was that they added some new lyrics and things like that about choice, and I thought that was a real modern take, and that really stood out to me. It's like Ariel was making choices here, and I think that's a good message. It didn't land the whole way, but at least to be putting it in there, I liked.
No, I definitely think that's a much better way to like modernize the story in a way. I'm never one to be like, just because it was done back in the day like this, you have to keep doing it. Like, no, I understand.
Update it.
You do need to update certain things, and I think that was okay. Well, Kelly, before we head into final ratings, is there anything else you really want to say that we haven't gone over?
The setting. I thought the setting was a really good change up. I enjoyed a lot of what they did with that. I thought that added a lot of bright and colorful and made the land as interesting as the sea. So I liked that a lot. There was a few side plots shoved in there that I thought were a bit unnecessary and really added to the time that I just didn't need. But no, I think we're sort of. Oh, sorry. Yes, the Jodie Benson cameo, the Dingle Hopper and the fork and stuff. As we were sort of saying at the top, like she's so beloved as this character. I thought that was a really great tribute to her.
Absolutely. No, 100%. Well, Kelly, we do rate movies here on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes. 0 is an abomination, an absolute disgrace to the art of film. One that, when you think about it, physically gives you pain just to think, and one that you hope you never have to revisit. And 10 is an incredible film. It is a near masterpiece. It's either a near masterpiece or one you would call a masterpiece, and one that reminds you why you love movies in the first place. Kelly, on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, what would you give this film?
Oh, sometimes I'm in two minds. My gut instinct says it's a 6.5. But I've been seeing it rated 7 on IMDb, and I'm like, because at the end of the day, it's still, my final thoughts are, I'll give it 6.5 for myself. But my final thoughts would be that it's enjoyable enough. Would I watch it again? Probably not. But was it a waste of 2 hours how I felt walking out of Aladdin? No. Like, I still thought there was something there for everyone, enjoyment for children and families. It was at least still a well-crafted movie. I could sit through it. So for me, probably not, but good enough, sure.
Yeah, okay, so 6.5, decent rating. I think I'm gonna go a little lower than you. I think I'm gonna give it a 5.5. The entire time I'm watching this movie, I'm just thinking, what does this movie give me that I could not get from the original Little Mermaid? And aside from a few different elements, I'm like, yeah, there is 0 reason why I would not just be watching that animated version more. And when you're remaking a movie, that's unfortunately one of the biggest sins.
That's the fatal flaw.
Yeah. If you do have kids, I'm sure they would enjoy it. But yeah, when this movie comes to streaming, there's really no reason to watch this movie over the original, unfortunately. So you look like
I was having a thought today, like I was brushing my teeth and I'm like, what, we have such reverence for the Jodie Benson performance of that Ariel. Like, my hope is that at least kids today might watch this one and have the same reference to Halle Bailey for one day. I wonder if 20 years time, I wonder if that's what's going to happen, because I would really like to see that.
That is a very good point, and if something from this movie is going to be remembered, it is going to be Halle Bailey's performance, because she is excellent as the character of Ariel. Well, before we move on, I can open it up to comments because I accidentally made it public, and I don't know how to advertise that. So you know what? We're going to be taking this down right after this, but you know what? To anyone that is watching right now, you get a little sneak peek. for what's going on Monday. I'm just going to open up the questions and comments. And Kelly, I actually have a question for you.
Ooh, I have an answer.
You see so many Disney remakes being made in live action. If there is one Disney animated film that has not yet been remade that you think would actually be translated really well into live action, which one would you choose?
It's been a meme for so long. It's been the Drake meme from Hotline Bling for so long. But Atlantis, I think, would go off. I think Atlantis is the one to do. Because at this point, they've really hit a lot of the classics. I never need to see another Snow White film in my life. I feel like I've seen that story so much. I sometimes forget that they redid Alice in Wonderland already recently. But it's those hidden properties that I think would really benefit from it. So I think Atlantis, being from the team that did Beauty and the Beast, I'm really surprised that one hasn't come back. So that one, I like that one as well because it's all people. You know what I mean? Obviously, we were talking about the animal-based ones not hitting as much, but I would like to see. And I love Princess Kita, so if we're talking princess movies, she deserves to shine again. I wonder if they would ever do Hunchback. That's never been one of my ones, but it's one of the last Disney Renaissance films that we haven't seen remade. So are they ever going to go there? But it's so dark.
I think they're scared to do Hunchback. I think that there are so many things you look at from that movie where, even though it's a G-rated film, they are tackling so many things, and the subtext is so strong. The subtext is so strong in that movie that you cannot get away with even putting that as subtext in movies nowadays, unfortunately. And I think why that would be my personal number one choice, but I'm just so scared they would mess it up. So I'm just I don't think that's my personal choice. I'll tell you the one I don't want to see, and it's one they're unfortunately making. Lilo and Stitch is gonna be is maybe my least anticipated movie ever. I love that movie with all my heart, and the reason I love that is because it feels like the Disney version of a Ghibli film in a way, and and I think there are few worse things I can think of than making live action remakes of Studio Ghibli films. And I just do not think they're gonna get the heart of that. I bless the casting director who has to cast a young Lilo, because I just don't. That is maybe going to be the hardest thing to find someone to play that live action version of that character. But one that I do think would be really good came out in the same era as Atlantis. I think Treasure Planet would be really cool. I think all those visuals would be really cool in live action. Some of the fun humanoid animal creations, all the futuristic things. I think
Space Saga. It usually works.
No, absolutely, yeah. Space Saga stuff is usually a lot of fun, and I think that would be a really, really cool film to see get the live action treatment.
Yeah, take the ones that weren't the hits and make it a hit. That should be the thing.
Yeah, that is absolutely the mantra I wish they had. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. I've been wanting since the start of the show, since you first messaged me and just said, "Hey, great job." I've been wanting to get you on. I can thank you now. Thank you for you and Mike and Nazario for giving me this job on the video store. In case anyone doesn't know, Kelly helps run the channel in a major way. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, no, thank you for everything. And it's such a pleasure to be on, been wanting to be on as well. Love what you're doing over here. So have a good rest of the show, darling.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Oh, I took me out. This has been the show, but I took myself out.
Thank you once again, Kelly, for joining us. The power of having an admin on is they also have the power to take each other out. But we're going to be moving right into our second movie tonight. It is the new comedy About My Father, directed by Laura Taruso, written by the star of the film, Sebastian Maniscalco. He's kind of telling the real life story of himself, of him essentially meeting his wife's family, and kind of about his struggles and also relationship with his father. About My Father is about an Italian immigrant by the name of Sebastian. Oh, I should rephrase. It is about the son of an Italian immigrant by the name of Sebastian, and his father, played by Robert De Niro, is a hairstylist in Chicago, and he has a very what's the word? Not well, okay, yeah. He has a very cheap way of looking at the world, where he does not like to spend a lot of money. He always likes to save up. The only thing he really likes to spend money on is cologne, and that has always given Sebastian a very serious sense in keeping a very well-groomed life, as you see throughout the film. And as in the early parts of the film, you see that adult Sebastian has kind of changed, and he's fallen in love with a woman by the name of Ellie, played by Leslie Bibb. And Ellie is an artist. Her parents are very, very rich. She comes from a very wealthy background, and Sebastian wants to propose to this woman. Sebastian has fallen in love with her, and he's kind of worried about what his father is going to think. But he also needs the wedding ring that is from his father's family, and his father won't give it to him until he has met their family. So Sebastian decides to take his father, played by Robert De Niro, up towards Washington, D.C. to meet Ellie's family. I'll say what I like about this movie first. One, I think Sebastian Maniscalco is very funny as the lead. I think he adds a lot of heart to this film. Most of the film is narrated by him, and he very much plays up the Italian nature of his character. Obviously, casting Robert De Niro, you get a lot of jokes there. The word Goomba is said, and I always appreciate a movie that uses the word Goomba as an insult. I always find that very funny. Robert De Niro is essentially on autopilot throughout this film. It's kind of what you see him do in a lot of these comedies made today. But I still do think he's funny. De Niro is a guy that I think can do comedy very, very well. He's had some major misses when you think of movies like Dirty Grandpa, but this one is one that I think it does come off very well. And I think both De Niro and Maniscalco have a lot of chemistry. And I think that's important in a father-son dynamic like this movie. And I think that nature of the film, for the most part, works. I think they're very funny together. There's a scene in the trailer that this isn't a spoiler, but it happens later in the film, where De Niro's character is trying to make good with Ellie's family, and he ends up boiling their pet bird. And just seeing how Sebastian Maniscalco's character is reacting and just getting super, super timid towards these actions is really, really funny. But yeah, the scenes the scenes where it's just Sebastian and De Niro, I think, are really, really good. I think the lessons that the main character learns about his dad, and how his dad may be stubborn, he may be hard. He may be hard-headed, but at the same time, he raised a great kid. Sebastian took the things that he found important to create a good family, and he's going to translate that towards the new family, and he really thanks his father for that. And I think that's a really nice sentiment. Now, hearing that, you might think that I think this movie is really good, but unfortunately what this movie is bogged down by is the whole Sebastian is visiting the new family for the first time and trying to get approval from the parents, and all of the wacky hijinks that come from that are wacky, but forget to be funny. There's not really an original bone in this movie's body, which I don't think is a problem if you can be humorous, which I just don't think this movie really is. I don't really think any of the main family members are that funny at all. Ellie is fun. I think Leslie Bibb turns in a decent performance. She has a very peppy attitude and always joyous, which can get annoying at times, but for the most part is pretty fun. The parents are your stereotypical, not uptight rich people, but very matter-of-factly. They're trying to be super polite, and they're trying to be very very proper. And at times that works, at times it doesn't. The worst parts of this movie are Ellie's two brothers. One of them, her older brother, is the stereotypical rich douchebag. He flies around on a helicopter. He's really uptight about certain things. He's like a star tennis player that does like a lot of drugs. Nothing really that fun with that character. And then the younger brother is sort of like this, like, how would I describe? I guess you can say like a hippie. Like his character makes like sound bowls to like get in tune with the universe. He's following different philosophers. There's an ongoing joke that he has a girlfriend in Africa and no one believes that she's real. He's always talking in like these really dulcet whispered tones, and that's like, that joke gets old really fast. And yeah, so the family doesn't feel like a real family at all. It just feels like a total cartoon, which often leads to like the really comedic bits just kind of falling flat. Like, I think what moment in this movie that I think completely falls flat on space is a moment where Sebastian is on like this like jet propeller thing that like shoots him up into the sky, and the whole family's on a boat. And at one point his swim trunks falls down, and the bit goes on too long that at one point you're like, okay, this the humor of this is really falling flat. And that's the main issue. When you have a comedy, it can get away with a lot of things as long as if it's funny. And this movie just isn't that funny, and I think it really, really affects it. There's also a really stupid liar revealed plot that is kind of introduced halfway through the movie. And the second it's introduced, we know how this movie is going to end. This plot point is going to come ahead, and certain characters are going to fight, and there's going to be a big misunderstanding until the characters eventually decide to forgive that person for lying, and they're all happily ever after, and they all live happily ever after, and you just don't really care about that at the end of the day. It really does suck that like the family drama between De Niro and Sebastian is so good, because if this movie was maybe like a little bit if this movie didn't try so hard to get these cheap laughs at these weird comedic moments, I think it would be a lot funnier, and just tone down on the cartoonish characters. I think you would have a much better movie. But with the movie being trying to go for as many laughs as it does, it just doesn't come off that funny. If I were to give this movie a score on a scale from 0 to 10, I think I would probably give it like a 4. I think it's a pretty bad comedy at the end of the day. Props to Robert De Niro and Sebastian Maniscalco for doing their best to try and salvage this movie. But overall, there's really nothing to see here that you haven't seen in other better comedies. It's funny that De Niro has been in a better Meeting the Parents movies in Meet the Parents, because that's a great comedy, while this one just kind of falls flat. No real reason to see this, and especially no real reason to see this in theaters. Well, thank you all for watching tonight. Just remember to like this video. It helps out a lot. Subscribe to the video store. We put on a ton of great shows. Kelly was on earlier. She is the co-host of Late Shift every other Friday. Her and Mike put on an incredible show where you get to call in and answer the question of the week. It's one of my favorite shows on the video store. Remember, on tpublic.com/the video store, you can buy my new shirt, the Cinemasters reviews. It's an awesome shirt. Remember to buy our shit. Almost every show on the video store at this point does have merchandise, and we really appreciate it when you guys buy stuff. Next week, we are going to be reviewing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, one of my most anticipated movies of the year, as well as the new A24 film, Past Lives. Those are the films I'm planning on reviewing right now. I might be able to squeeze a third one in there, and if I am able to squeeze that one in, it will be The Boogeyman, because I do really want to see that movie as well. So maybe next week we get the first 3 review show I've done so far. But yeah, thank you all for watching this. I'm sorry for accidentally making this live and not announcing it. So if you were able to watch it live, congrats. If you're able to watch this pre-recorded, thank you so much. But until next week, I hope you all have a great evening. Have a great night.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.